Hi, I'm Billy Keels, the host of the Going Long podcast. Every week, I'm going to be here interviewing the absolute best in the business as it relates to real asset investing, as well as real Main Street investors. We're going to be having conversations where you can listen in, and that's going to help you to continue on your path to education so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident in investing long distance. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you're liking it as well, because that way you can get every single episode as soon as it comes out. And by the way, don't forget to leave today's episode a 5-star review. Let's go ahead and listen to today's conversation. Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. I'm your host, Billy Keels. And you know what? Don't sleep on today's conversation. Definitely don't sleep on today's conversation, because you know what? If you've ever wanted to know how to build positive momentum in active investing, thanks to a very positive and solid passive investing background, even if you're working as a high-paid professional, then guess what? Today's conversation is the one you're going to want to listen to until the very last word. I promise. Because you know what? Today's guest not only is an active problem solver as well as an effective team builder, he spent over 20 years as an anesthesiologist. Yeah, say that fast 3 times. He's also a husband and a father of 2. He has expertise in passive investing beyond 2,000 doors. There's a lot of experience there. Really want to understand more about that. And he's also gaining early success as a result of this in the active investing world. He's also the principal at Equity Pledge Investments. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome to today's conversation, Mr. Kevin Jenkins. Kevin, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Billy, how you doing?
I'm doing just fine, man. I am really looking forward to today's conversation. And you know what? The thing is, anytime I welcome anyone from the great state of Ohio, I got to start it out this way, man. So you're from Ohio. So the thing is, OH?
Ohio.
Yeah, baby. There we go. Yeah, you know, this is the thing in between Ohioans. So, no, man, really looking forward to today's conversation. I've had a pleasure getting a chance to know you, know more about your story. And I know that the entire Going Long family is going to learn so much from you. So, but you know what also too, Kevin? Got the same 5 questions for everybody. 2 in the beginning, 3 in the end. And we're going to talk a lot about you so everybody can get to know you in the middle. But listen, first and foremost, I already gave a little bit of it away, but where exactly do you live in the U.S.?
So I am in Central Ohio and Columbus specifically. That's where I'm from. To get a little bit more granular, I'm currently in New Albany, Ohio. And then for your European listeners, as I had to tell one person, I am from the state where LeBron James used to live. And at that point, the Cleveland Cavaliers. And most Europeans know where that is. So,
and also where he's from.
And where he's from.
Very important.
When you say Columbus, it just kind of goes over their head.
Yeah. Well, we got 2 Columbus guys here on the same conversation. So that's also very, very nice. Anyway, so listen, so appreciate you sharing that, Kevin. And the other thing is we always like to start out things in a positive way. So help us understand, what's the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So in the past 24 hours, I was able to attend my son's football camp, which was in another city. I was able to be there, which, you know, that can be challenging in my daily work. And the other thing was a piece of property landed in my lap that I can at least kind of go after. And so I've been looking for a while, and this one seems to be perfect. And the management company that I had before happens to know all about this property, which is kind of, the wheels are already kind of greased for me. So
fantastic.
That was great. So
all right, awesome, man. So you got family time, and also too, you got some business opportunities. So that's not bad in 24 hours. That's
it
really
was
good.
actually pretty exciting. I got really excited about it.
All right, awesome, man. Well, listen, so I kind of in my own way, at a very 50,000 foot level, I wanted to try and give and tell a little bit about your backstory. But the thing is, I would really love, and the entire Going Long family, we would love for you to share your backstory in your own way. And the other thing is, Kevin, if you could also maybe highlight some of the different decisions that you've made to get to this point in your investing journey would really be helpful. And I'm sure that I'll have probably a couple questions along the way. But let's get to know you a little bit, man. So tell us your backstory, please.
Okay. So I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. And as a kid, I've always wanted a lot of things. And my parents, specifically my mother, would always say, you know what? When you get able, you can get exactly whatever you want. And then that ultimately got condensed down to when you get able. And it was usually said with some frustration. And then my father would ultimately say, well, you know, it sounds like you just want a job. And so when I was about in the second grade, I got my first job, and I was the local paper boy. I had over 100 customers. I did that for about 6 years. And when you are doing that, you know, when I did that, I realized that the people in my surrounding area, whether it was the outside of their house or inside of their house, when I had to go in and collect the money, it wasn't how we were living. Although we lived on the same street, it wasn't how we were living. And over the course of that time, and while I did that, you know, I watched a lot of TV. I started watching this show called The Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous with Robin Leach. And what I quickly realized was that everybody in that neighborhood, 10 blocks north, 10 blocks south, 10 blocks east or west, no one in that neighborhood had what was represented on that show. And so that left like left a memory for me. And I'm like, man, one day I'm gonna get whatever those people were doing, I'm gonna get what was on that show. And because it definitely was not represented in the neighborhood. So also during that whole time, my parents, they were entrepreneurial, and they had some property, and they, in their ownership, they had about 30 units. My sister and I served as the make ready turnover crew. And I think that's what allowed us to do the things that other people in our neighborhood were not doing. So it allowed us to travel. We went to parochial school, so it bought extra things. And so I think that's what made our lifestyle a bit different. So from there, I decided to major in systems analysis. I went on to Miami University. And then in my first year, I had an internship with AT&T. And in that internship, there was someone studying for the MCATs. And for your European listeners, the MCAT is a standardized test to get into medical school in the United States. So I decided to switch. And I switched. I took the MCAT, got into medical school. And from there, I decided to do a residency in anesthesia. And I went and lived in Ann Arbor, Michigan, at the University of Michigan. That's where I went. And then ultimately, I circled back and made my way back to Columbus. One of the things I did when I first got back, at least 12 months after I got back into Columbus, I bought a single family house, and then I bought a 4-family unit. And just because I knew what it could offer. And that was just like my entry into real estate. And my wife and I managed that for a few years. And we realized it was kind of small, but what I initially did when we bought this place was in a horrible position. And I went to the local Class A apartment complex, took a bunch of photos, and replicated everything in our building and pushed the rents up to over $1,000 per door. And I got the same value as the neighbor next door because it was a residential piece of property. And so at that point, I knew I had to go bigger, and I took the proceeds, paid off my student loans, which were in the 6 figures, and then bought another single family house in a different neighborhood, which is much larger. And then I took a break, saved up some more cash, and then bought a 79 unit apartment complex, operated that for 33 months or almost 3 years, and got an outsized asymmetrical return. And I'm sitting on a bunch of cash right now. And as of yesterday, like I told you at the top of the show, 120 plus unit apartment complex kind of showed up in my email, and kind of jazzed about it. So, and I just lost, I tried to pick up 150 units in Dallas, almost made it there. I made it to at least the first phase of best and final, but lost out.
So, Kevin, you've given me about 5,000 different ways that I can take this conversation. I appreciate that. That's very nice.
Yeah.
So we're going to go back to something that you said in the beginning. And I think this is really interesting, right? Because you're talking about at a very young age, you started working. Did you say you were in second grade?
Second grade to sixth grade. Second grade to eighth grade, I had the paper route.
Okay. So second grade to eighth grade, you had the paper route, and you started
my sister in the fourth grade.
and you fired your sister in the 4th grade. So you were already talent management.
Yeah, because she wanted all the money, but none of the work.
So this is the team building part that we talked about in the very beginning. So you're understanding how teams work. So teams work or not work. So and making sure the right people are on the bus. So, but if we take it back to kind of that moment, you also said that you started noticing inside of homes that the homes looked a little bit different, and then you saw Robin Leach in the Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, and it seems like. But I'd be interested for you to talk to us about like how did like seeing what you saw and maybe not seeing that in your own home, if I understood that correctly, like how is that serving you or helping you today to continue to move forward towards your goals?
So some people like today is called, today is called like a vision board or, that's what it's called today. But so like my sister liked to go out and window shop. I hated window shopping because I never had the money. And you always got the feedback from my parents when you get able, or it sounds like you want a job. And they never told me no. They basically said, figure out a way to get it. Mm-hmm. And so, if I see something, then I make a way to get it. And I use that as my guide. And I really figure out how do I get it? How do I get it? And it allows me to do the things that I want to do. Or it kind of directs the path for where I should go to get the things that I want. So, yeah.
Fantastic. So what that early on experience helped you to do was to be able to define the direction in which you wanted to go. And you're just, that you're moving in that direction. I think you also mentioned earlier, it sounds like even though you know the direction that you want to go, you allow yourself to pivot, because you mentioned before you were systems analysis, but then something along the journey, you pivoted and you decided you wanted to go to medical school. Is that something that is that a pattern that you've recognized yourself, or just kind of?
Yeah,
okay.
No, absolutely. So for me, like if you see a problem, you need to either, it becomes like a strategic inflection point, right? And so it's either go in the same direction that you're going, which may not be the course you really want to go towards, or the direction you really want to go. So you need to make a decision at that point to go left, right, bring in new people, collaborate with some people. You just have to make that decision and go in the direction that is best for you, that will help you achieve your goals. So.
Okay. And that makes a lot of sense. So I appreciate you just hitting on that point, because having a North Star and being able to move there and provide yourself with that little wiggle room to be able to adapt to team, to meeting people and things like that is something is fantastic. So also you mentioned after I think you said after medical school, then you decided to purchase your first properties. You said a single family and right. Was it a quadplex, a fourplex?
Fourplex.
Okay, perfect. So I remember when I finished college, and I was knee deep in debt too. I wasn't at 5 figures. I was like $65,000, something like that back in the 90s. So, but I didn't do MBA and I didn't do medical school or any of that kind of stuff. So I guess when I'm thinking about that, you had your parents as an example, but what was it? You had 6 figures worth of debt. Mm-hmm. Why in the world did you think to go and buy real estate when you were going into medical school, or you were going into practice?
No, I was out of medical school.
You were going into your own practice or right. After medical school? Because just as my parents being an example, I knew what real estate could provide. And it was not just the cash flow, but it was also the equity. And I knew that if I focused on the debt and trying just to pay down the debt, it would take me longer. And so my goal was to build up an asset column faster than it would take me to bring down that liability column. And so I was singularly focused right on that. I had tunnel vision. Okay.
And for me, I always say, look at the goal and don't get mired in all the details, and just go after the goal. Because if you get mired in all the details, it'll be a stumbling block. It will take you longer. And And that's how I was trained. Even like in anesthesia, or if you're doing an operation, there's the problem, whatever it may be, and you got to fix the problem. No matter what complications may occur, no matter what may happen, no matter what the surgeon's doing, no matter what the patient happens to do during the midst of an operation, the problem needs to be fixed. It needs to be addressed, and you fix it. And so that's kind of what I bring to the real estate investing. You see a problem, you fix it. You have your goals, you go after your goals.
And so you've answered one of the questions I did want to ask you, because as an anesthesiologist, right, what are some of the different parallels that you see beyond maybe what you've talked about now to fix a problem that, you're over 20 years of your profession? Like, what are some of the different things that are also helping you to be successful in terms of what it is? What crosses over?
Yeah. So in any operation or in any business, it's all collaboration. It's all team approach. The moment you try to do things by yourself, it's going to take longer. And you won't achieve success as fast as you could if you were working with others. Because now you got a team. It's no different if you're watching like football, basketball, any team-based sport. Things happen and go quicker when people work together. And that's just one of my belief systems. So.
Okay. Well, and that makes a lot of sense. And teamwork I always say hashtag teamwork makes the dream work, right? And so when you can do things even faster, even better, and you get the responses sooner. So the other thing that I did want to check in, right? Because this is the Going Long podcast. So I think everybody knows, like, I live in Europe and I've been exclusively investing in US based real or tangible assets, right? Everything from smaller multifamily through to energy equipment, ATM machines, and everybody here kind of knows that thing. But I guess you said that those first 5 kind of doors, where were you living when you purchased those properties?
First 4. Well, the single family house was my house.
Okay.
I was in basically Columbus, and I bought I was watching the government channel, and the mayor of the city said that they're going to put a line of rail right down into this central area in Columbus, and light bulb came on, and I'm like, okay, I need to buy a piece of property right where that new piece of rail line is going to end up. And it's called the Columbus 2020 plan. Mm-hmm. And so I bought that local. Mm-hmm. The property that I bought, the 79 unit, was located over 2 hours away.
Yeah, we'll get to that one. Because that one's very, I think that's a lot that the Going Long family is going to learn from you with that one. But so you were already actively investing. You were getting experience. You were in your area. You purchased your first home, and then your residential rental property. But then you started investing in a different state, like thousands of miles away.
Oh yeah.
Which is the whole, like, one of the, But so like the whole thing with the Going Long podcast is, fundamentally we want to help people understand. Like, I read all those books. Like, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read like all these different real estate books, and all the books say buy in your hometown, be the landlord, all that kind of stuff. And I just fundamentally don't believe that you have to live in the same city as you invest. And as a high pay professional, I've started also learning about this thing called passive investing, which I had no idea because I didn't have any family members that were part of real estate or knew anything about that or stuff like that. But like I'm just curious if you can share your story, Kevin. Why did you decide to invest long distance, meaning that you were placing your capital somewhere that was actually not in your backyard? What was the reason for you to feel comfortable enough to do that?
Okay, yeah. So initially, I wanted extra income without actually having to work for it. And I knew that, if you look at any average dividend paying stock, it's only going to pay you about 2%, right? At least the better ones, the higher they get with the dividend, and it may not be as it's just, to me, it's not something you want to get involved with. So, but anyway, on average,
that's probably pre-tax, right?
Yeah, it's all pre-tax. Absolutely. And so I knew that if I invested with someone else who's in a market that might be considered better than the one I'm currently in, I might go faster, quicker, and on the back of someone else's coattails. And so that's the reason why I started investing with someone else. And at this point now in my venture, I truly believe any investment outside of the stock market is, if you do your due diligence, is a better investment.
Okay, so that's kind of, I agree with you. And most of the people that are listening to us agree with you. Why do you feel that way?
I feel that way because there's a couple of reasons. People so if I'm talking to colleagues at work and I'm like, hey, I'm also a real estate investor. They're like, oh, Kev, that sounds a little risky. I'm like, there's nothing more risky than sending your money to some guy you don't know on Wall Street, and you're just another asset under management. And they're like, the wheels start turning and they're like, oh yeah, maybe you're right. And so what it provides is transparency, because you can reach out to the owner. I'm never going to be able to reach up and call the phone and say, hey, Jeff Bezos, what's going on with the stock? What's going on with the company? It's not going to happen. But, you can reach out to some of these syndicators and just send them an email and talk to them, So there's transparency. If you want to get involved, you can. If you want to be on the GP or side of the transaction, you can, if you're in the position to do so. And there's tax benefits. You're not going to get that in the stock market. So there's more options.
Yeah, and there are definitely more options. And there are a couple of things that you're talking about. Number one, I love that you're not going to be able to, well, you can call Jeff, but I don't think he's going to answer the phone. You can call him all day. You can probably wait for 2 weeks, but doubtful you're going to get through to him. And when you are looking at syndication, yes, there's a much higher likelihood that you're going to be able to speak to the general partner, the key sponsor, or whoever that person is, or that team of people are, to get direct feedback and things like that, which I think is another plus. And ultimately, it's not about how much money you make; it's about how much money you keep. So, and then this is one of the other things for us high paid professionals, right? Because a lot of times people think, if you're a high paid professional, you don't have any issues. Well, yeah, everybody has issues. They're just different issues, right?
Yeah.
And so as you start looking into, real estate or tangible assets, I like to say, I guess, what was one of the things that the tax benefits, how has that kind of played into your philosophy, whether actively investing or passively investing?
So it's my wife and I, and if you can claim the real estate tax professional status, that'll benefit you. And we were able to do so a few years in our private transactions, and it was beneficial. To answer your question directly. What was your other question?
No, it was really just that, just in terms of the tax benefits. So that's one of the things. And I guess I would also say, just for the Going Long family. So when Kevin talks about the real estate professional that is actually an IRS what's the actual word? The IRS designation. Thank you. Designation. Right. And so he's basically sharing an idea. Like, he's not giving anybody any tax advice. He's not doing any of that kind of stuff. He's just he's sharing his idea. And something that he used in his world. Like, anybody that would want to do that, you need to talk to your own tax professional. You need to make sure that it is something that is relevant for you and your situation. Like, so and I think all the Going Long family knows that already, but we're not here giving anybody any advice on anything. Kevin is just merely sharing his story. So,
I haven't gotten it all the time.
Did you want to build on that?
I haven't gotten it all the time. So, I've only gotten it a few years out of all the years I've been investing, and it's just because of how we were positioned at the time. You got to get all the hours. You got to be, really involved in the management of the property, and we just don't always get it all the time. We've gotten it. We've not gotten it more times than we've gotten it, but when we do get it, it's beneficial.
Yeah, exactly. So, one of the other things, and it's definitely something that can be beneficial. And once again, just talk to your tax professionals and find out how that can work for you and your situation. Now, I know that you're on a mission and there's a couple of different things, like you, in terms of the way that you think about tenants, the way that you think about employees, the way that you think about investors, and the way that you think also about your partners. So talk to us a little bit about, maybe touch on those and why those, like, 4 different areas are really important to you from a mission standpoint.
Okay, so tenants / residents, they're your customers, right? And you're providing a service. And if you can help them out achieve whatever it is they're achieving, it may not just be, providing a home for them or their family. They may have some other needs. And like particularly in the midst of COVID last year, if you can help them out, ultimately they'll be able to help you out. And to me, it just goes back and forth. And so when you can service the customers or your tenants, it'll work out for you too. So I think that's one philosophy. You asked about employees, the same thing with employees. Everybody has issues, at least being on the medicine side of things, everyone has issues. I don't care if you're poor or wealthy, you have issues, and everyone has some issues that need to be addressed. And so if you can address anyone's issues, regardless of price point, you'll be able to help yourself out too. And that's just my philosophy after being on the other side of the drape, other side, to say. So that's just how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as partners, just collaboration. I really believe in collaboration, just because you can go faster, further, you just can. So.
Yeah. And then with the last area, just in terms of mission with helping investors.
So like with investors, like if I had to so what happened to me? So now I am, I'm pivoting towards doing the syndication route. Right. And, so the problem for me when I bought the 79 units is I wanted to buy another property. I was out of cash and I had to wait to liquidate so I can move on to the next property. But there are those who started before me, and even some people that I know that you have not mentioned, when I had consulted them, and these guys have about 2,000 units. But at the 1,000 unit mark, they said, well, Kev, if we had syndicated from the get-go, we would be ahead much further faster than if we just kept using our own money.
Right.
And so that kind of switched my thinking. I already knew about collaboration because I do it every day in work. And that's what I was doing in my own place, my own property. But I never thought about it in the investing world. But then when you look at what's publicly traded, that's all they're doing anyway. They're raising funds and going out there into the world and achieving the goals, whatever their goals may be. So.
Yeah, so it's great when you think about those different missions that you're focused on, whether it be tenant / resident, whether it be employee, whether it be partner and or investor. And so that helps that once again is your North Star that helps drive you in the direction that you want to be able to go. So, and one of the things I would love for you to unpack, because we kind of talked about it a couple times, but I think it's just a great story, right? Because you living in Columbus, like this is my favorite going long story, right? You are 2.5 hours down southwest, right, of Columbus, and being able to so tell us a little bit the story around your 79 unit that you've just gone full cycle on, and things like that. And I want everybody just to once again remember, right, because we're a lot of very busy, high-paid professionals. Kevin is in this boat. He is an anesthesiologist. It's a very high-paid, very high-stress, very, very, very busy type of professional career. And he's living in one city, and he is having this 79-unit property managed, and he is overseeing that. So maybe talk us a little bit through that, how it went full cycle, because I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned there.
So when I decided I wanted a larger property, I initially started with 40 units, and after speaking to some other people, I figured I could get 80 units. So then I started looking, and for me, I wanted to keep it within a 4-hour window, fly or drop, 4 hours. And so it took me 16 months to find the 79 unit, but in those 16 months, the very first property I went to go look at was in Kansas. And it was in Lawrence, Kansas. And I knew that it would take me 4 hours to fly to Kansas, but what I did not factor in was the 1-hour drive further west to get to Lawrence. So at that point, I was kind of angry when I had to fly back. But I learned a lot just on that transaction, because once I went there, I was going there to buy, right? I had already did the underwriting, and I was going there to buy, and so we toured the place, and it just didn't work out.
Sorry to cut you off, Kevin, but give us like maybe one thing that you learned, because you said you learned a lot on that trip. What was one thing that you learned?
So the property itself was it was more than just dated. It had some it was kind of like obsolete in some ways. As far as like where the laundry rooms were, you had to go outside. It was just really obsolete, and how the previous owner was using the property. Mm-hmm. But the real thing was when I started talking to the banker about this place, and the banker was asking me questions, one question after another. And I was just like, no, I didn't think of that. No, didn't consider that. I was like, I think I better go back to like the very beginning. And, but in doing that, it made me start thinking of like, I need to really be on point. Right. Yep. And so after that, I found a property in Dallas. So I called the brokers down in Dallas, like, hey, I really want to invest in this property in Dallas, and I'm looking for a 10 cap. And the broker was like, son, you're not going to get that here. I was like, okay, well, tell me about what's going on. He told me, and the funniest thing was, he said, "Well, are you with the lifestyle or the Sunrock Group?" I was like, I'm down with the lifestyle. That's what I'm trying to get. And he's like, no, there's a group called Lifestyle and there's a Sunrock Group. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so I knew from there I couldn't get into the Dallas market because there's the price points, because I'm operating by myself, right? Mm-hmm. So the price points are a little bit too high for me. So I started working with some local brokers, and I was always showing up, and I was telling them what I was looking for as far as demographics, location, and come full circle. I found one that he said, hey, Kev, we think we found one. And I was like, yeah, I hope you found me a property, because the money in my pocket is burning a hole, and it's going to land on somewhere. It's going to either be with you guys or someone else. And so at that point, went down, saw the property, put my offer in, did all the pre-due diligence, put my offer in, and then they wanted me to go up. And I was like, you know what, I'm out. And then by 7 days later, they're like, hey, the sellers got spooked by the two people ahead of you. Do you still want it? And I said no. Like on a Monday or Tuesday, and then by Friday I had the deal. So that was the process. And then as far as turning it around, the first management company I had did not work out, and the first management company. The management company I wanted initially, mm-hmm. I chose, and the brokers suggested that I not go with them because they might be too big for the property. And then they're like a.
What does that mean? What does that mean? Because some of I know what you mean, but some people will say, well, what do you mean they're too big? How can they be too big for the property?
So like this management company is like the best in class management company, and they're a full, they're an organization. They have everything you need, whether you need to do rehab, construction, whatever. They have everything. And who they suggested was someone who was a company that would fit that property, that class of property, and maybe that size of property. And it just didn't work out. And so I ended up pivoting back to my initial choice, and it worked out. Yeah. Especially during COVID, because COVID was like not planned for. And during that 12-month period, we increased the rental rate, the occupancy, and the value, So.
Wow. Okay. And so in being able to have these indicators go up during COVID is something that's phenomenal. And none of us actually had COVID on the roadmap. So we all kind of got caught off guard, I guess, in that regard. But one of the things that you just said that I want to make sure that the Going Long family understands is it really is about making sure. And one of the things, Kevin, we talk about a lot here, I like to help people understand is really it's about having 4 specific things in alignment. Number one, you have to understand from your own personal philosophy, what is it that you want? What is the benefit that you hope that real estate is going to help you to derive? Do you want tax benefits? Do you want cash flow? Do you want equity buildup? Do you want, you do want tax benefits? These types of things, right? And then once you're clear on that, you go to the location that's probably going to give you the highest probability of getting that benefit. And then and only then do you select the team. But the team, and this is what Kevin is talking about, like it has to be the team that understands your resident, that understands your property class, that understands your size, because at the end of the day, all property management companies are not made the same. All team members are not made the same. And this is one of the things that you're really, really strong at in terms of being able to build a team, because then afterwards, once you're personally understand you're in the right location and then you have the team in place, it doesn't matter what property you buy after that, because everything is going to be aligned and it's going to give you the highest probability as an investor, whether it's active or passive, of attaining success, which is the benefit that you were looking to derive in the very beginning. Does that make sense? Would you say that that's a fair statement?
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely what occurred in the past 33 months.
Yeah. So tell us about how things exit before we get into the going long final three.
How did things exit? What do you mean?
So you mentioned that you had the property and we understood that you just were able to exit the property. So you sold the property, and so now so tell us about how that was able to transpire, how that transaction ended.
So I'll back up from that.
Because it was, and I guess the thing is, and I think this is really important because this was something that's happening during the COVID period, right? So
that's what I was going to back up to. So when I brought in the new management company, the whole time, everyone knew that I did not need the income. So I took all the cash flow, all the income that the property was generating, and I just rolled it right back into the property. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I had a plan. This is pre-COVID. So this is 2019. I dropped the occupancy really low, down to like 79%. And basically what we did was we got rid of the tenants that were like the problem tenants. And the plan was to rehab all the units to get them ready for, I call it, like just the rent season, like March, April, May. So when people start moving again, we can refill fill the building back up. Well, this is 2020. And now it's just like, it's slow going to get the tenants back in there. All the units have been updated and renovated and brought up to like, this was a Class C property. So they were brought up to like B, C plus property, like the units themselves. And so they looked really nice. And we wanted the best in class units for that area, where if a tenant came in, they're like, oh, we got to live here. This place is great. And so we also provided customer service. We were always open. The office was open, and the office was actually new. Because that's one of the things that we did when we brought in the new management company. So anyway, we got the occupancy up all the way up to 98%. By the end of 2020, the rents were up. The value was definitely up by over $1 million. And we got under contract in December. And we had to do a couple extensions for the buyers. And by March 29th, it's sold. And my wife said, don't drop the check on the way home. Because it was 7 figures.
Yeah, so. very nice. Yeah. That's one of those checks you definitely want to keep, but definitely want to make sure you don't drop those. So I appreciate you taking us through that story, because it just shows a couple things, right? I mean, and this is a very active, an active involvement that you had for this particular property that was long distance, from Columbus to Cincinnati, and being able to do that in a high professional, high paid, high stress type of a role. So appreciate you sharing that with us, Kevin. And one of the things that kind of we have to get to, it's the going long final three. But the thing is, Kevin, I never ask anybody the going long final three unless they tell me that they're ready. So my question to you is, are you ready?
Ready. Let's do it.
Man, you were born ready. I knew you were going to say that. So here we go. So this is a lightning round for the going long final three. And I kind of think I know the answer to number one already. But anyway, I'm going to ask you the question. So what is your favorite European city?
Well, that's a picture of Rome behind me.
By the way,
if you're my favorite city.
Wait, hang on a second. If you're not watching the video version, everybody needs to just kind of stop what you're doing, unless you're driving. Don't do that now. But later on, come watch the video version, because Kevin's got this really, really cool city in the background, and you can watch it from the very beginning. But anyway, sorry I cut you off, and I heard you say it. But go ahead, can you say it again, please?
I said, my favorite city is Rome. I like the people. I like the proximity to all the other cities in northern Italy, and the food's great. So we like Florence.
Okay. All right. Rome or Florence?
You know what? I
Rome
also like
Florence?
Marbella. I like Marbella, and I like Ronda.
Ronda, yeah. And Marbella is very, very nice. But is it Rome? Rome is your favorite city, right?
No, Florence.
Florence. Okay. Florence. So we'll make sure that we get that.
Pictures of Florence.
Okay. We'll make sure that we get Florence there. And so then here's the next question. So, and it really is about really successful people, Kevin, and you're a very successful person. You've done lots of things. And one of the things that I've recognized is that really successful people, like they have this one thing in common, is that they typically only make one mistake, which is why they're super, I get that wrong all the time. I think I kind of do it by design. Anyway, no. So the reality is, like, everybody makes mistakes, learning opportunities, whatever you want to call them, what we talked about earlier. But what I have noticed is that people that are successful do something very differently. From every single learning opportunity or mistake, they take away a lesson and apply it. So what's the one lesson that you have learned from doing something wrong or making a mistake that you know would be very valuable to pay forward to the Going Long family?
I would say always be ready to pivot. Think about strategic inflection points. I kind of like that word. It's not my word. It was a term I found in a book about staying paranoid. I think it's by Andrew Young, I think. It was it's about Intel. But always be ready to pivot and always be ready, hire slow, fire fast. But that was my problem. And I just kind of, because you don't want to, if they're not going in the direction you're trying to row or swim to, you got to put people on board so they're in the right seat. And so you can go in the direction you're trying to go to. But yeah, that would be my suggestion. Pivot.
All right. Be ready. Be willing and ready to pivot and do it in a fast way. And I like that strategic inflection point. So I will keep that one. Hopefully I'll use that one, pay it forward in the future as well. So coming to the very last of the Going Long Final Three, and we always like to end by feeding our brains with knowledge. So Kevin, what is the one book that you would recommend to the Going Long family?
Oh yeah. Well, I like a class of books. My class of books are of individuals, and I sent you an email that had a list of individuals of how they did, how they do things or how they did things. They're all business leaders, from Cornelius Vanderbilt to Elon Musk. And then locally, there's like Les Wexner, the Learner Limited Victoria's Secret guy. But the most recent book I read was about A.G. Gaston. This guy was born in 1897. He was the son of slaves. But by the time of his death in 1996, he had accumulated $130 million worth of assets.
Wow.
And, when you put all these people, these individuals together, where they started and where they end, it's like, how did they do it? Right. And that's kind of like, you read their stories and you incorporate a little bit of them in yourself. And so that book, it may not be for all readers, but, when you think about pre-slavery, the slave born to parents who were slaves and how they ended up, you have to ask yourself, what's my excuse?
Yeah. A.G. Gaston. So what's the name of the book?
Oh, sorry. The name of that book is called Black Titan.
Black Titan. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
We
by Carol Jenkins. No relation. Not related to Lane.
All right. Cool. So Black Titans, Carol Jenkins. Wow, man. You know what, Kevin? These conversations go by so fast. I mean, it's just amazing. So I'm thinking about you talking from the very beginning in your paper route and working with your sister and realizing you had to already do some talent management kind of changes in the fourth grade. And then from there, you knew where you wanted to go. You wanted to do the systems analyst. And then from there, you gave yourself permission to pivot, go into the medical profession. And so then from there, you were able to realize, like, hey, look, I had two parents that were always entrepreneurs. They had some success with rental real estate. Even though you had 6 figures worth of debt, you were like, hey, look, I'm going to go out and start buying my own house. I'm going to get this rental property. Then from there, you gave yourself the opportunity to then continue to work, but you wanted your money on the treadmill while you were doing your anesthesiology. And so then you started going long and you were investing passively, and you did that 2,000 plus doors. And then from there, you took that experience, you parlayed what you were doing during the day, solving problems, fixing issues, leading teams, and you're doing that and building your own business, right? As another business, which is the real estate business, and providing services. And you've been able to go, not just, like I said, investing in over 2,000 doors. You've also then been able to have your own syndications, and now you're focused today on making sure that you have a clear mission as it relates to investors, as it relates to partners, as it relates to tenants and employees as well. And I'm like, you're doing all these things, so much energy, so much positivity, and I'm sure that not just me, but the entire Going Long family is like, dude, I got to get in touch with Kevin, man. I got to find out more about what he's doing. So I would love for you to share with me and the entire Going Long family, what is the best way for the Going Long family to contact you or learn more about what you're doing?
Oh, yeah, certainly. I can be reached at www.equitypledge.com. And on there is my email address, or you can just email me at kevin@equitypledge.com.
All right, perfect. So everybody from the Going Long family, go check Kevin out, equitypledge.com. You can reach him at kevin@equitypledge.com. He's got a lot of great information over on his website. I know he's very, very available. He can make himself available. He's not very available. I shouldn't say that. He's he doesn't have a lot of availability, but he makes himself available to you. So
make it happen.
Yeah, he definitely does that, and I can attest to that because he was there for me. So, Kevin, listen, man, thank you very much. I want to thank you for investing your time with me and the entire Going Long family from the bottom of my heart, man. Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right. Awesome. And if you give me just a couple seconds, Kevin, I just want to say a couple last words to the Going Long family. Really quickly, look, Kevin left so much value today. He shared his story, another high-paid professional that is showing that it can be done both actively and passively. And somebody needs to hear this story today. So take just a couple seconds and share today's episode with 2 or 3 other people. Be that person that is making a positive impact on someone else's life that's also attracting other like-minded individuals to the Going Long family. And also, when you do that, take just a couple seconds to leave an honest review of what you thought about today's conversation, what you've thought about other conversations, what you think about the podcast in general, because it's something I take very seriously. And I continue to work on making sure that the podcast is bringing you exactly what you need, and awesome guests like Kevin. And so those honest reviews are something that really, really help us a lot. So just take a couple seconds to do that. And then lastly, I'm really looking forward to welcoming you back on the very next conversation. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much.
Wow, don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? When I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me like a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long-distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.